My guest today is Amanda Lucas, founder of Lucas Literacy Lab, a faith-based middle school microschool in Middlesex County, New Jersey, that's set to open this fall of 2024. Amanda taught in charter schools and private schools across New York City for nearly a decade. Before deciding to become an education entrepreneur, she joined the KaiPod Catalyst Accelerator program in the fall of 2023 to help her with her launch plans and is here to share with us her pre-launch journey and hopes for the future of Lucas Literacy Lab. Amanda Lucas, welcome to the Liberated Podcast.
Thank you, Carrie. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. I'm also so happy I've had a chance to meet you in person a couple of times, and I'm just thrilled to have you on the podcast. And I'd love to start, Amanda, if we could, with sort of your journey to education to begin with. What made you decide to become a teacher, and what was that experience like working in conventional schools for almost 10 years?
So the funny thing is that I always said that I would never, ever be a teacher. I was like so against it. I went to my undergrad is in English, and when I was there, everybody was like, "What do you do with an English degree? You're just going to be a teacher." And I was like, "No, I'm going to be an editor in chief. I want to be a journalist. This is what I'm going to do." So I left school. I started with some internships, and then I became an editorial assistant. I worked at Parents Magazine, American Baby magazine. And then I left that to freelance because the money was better if you were a writer to freelance rather than be in the office. I didn't really like editing. Um, and I had a young daughter. So I had my daughter when I was 19. And so she went to school with me. There was like a daycare in my college, and she went there. She was at the magazine with me all the time. She was the muse, really. But I wanted to be with her, and I cared deeply about her learning, and I love to read, and I always read with her, and we were always learning together. I took her everywhere, and I was on such a tight budget. I remember creating a blog, which I don't remember the name of it now, but I had a blog that chronicled my life with her, where I would try and take her somewhere across New York, in New York City, every day, somewhere educational for less than $20. And so I was finding all these free things to do with her, and we were just learning together. And I was homeschooling, and I didn't know it, right? And we were just so close, and everyone was very encouraging of that. And everyone would say, like, "Oh, this is so beautiful to see, and you have all the best ideas." And I never wanted to take any time away from her. So and people always said to me, like, "You would be a great teacher. This would be so good for you." So I became pregnant with my second daughter, and I said I was working in an office and freelancing at the same time, and I said, let me try it. Let me just see what I can do. So I started at a preschool. It was a community-based preschool. And I worked there for a bit, and I loved it. I remember my first day thinking, like, this is what people get to do for work. They get to just be with the kids and learn with them and have fun with them. Um, so I really enjoyed my time there. And then I went from that to Success Academy Charter Schools in Brooklyn. So Success Academy, um, people will tell you that I'm making this up. I might be making this up. I don't know. But I thought that I saw a position on their website for a curator of the books that the middle schoolers were going to read. And I'm such a bibliophile, and I was so obsessed with like reading and curating books and recommending books, and I just know what people are going to like, that I was like, oh, this would be perfect for me. I'd love it. And my brother happened to know an assistant principal there, and she took me on a tour of the school, and she said, you could start. I was still pregnant. This was the end of the pregnancy. I had left the preschool. And I was 7 months pregnant in the interview. They said, there is no position at that level, but you can start as an assistant teacher. So I said, okay, let's try it. So I had the baby. They let me start in October. And I was an assistant teacher, and then I became a lead teacher. And then I went from there to a Catholic school, which I also really enjoyed. In the Catholic school, I was teaching first grade and then middle school. So over the years, I've taught everything from preschool to eighth grade, across a variety of schools. And then in 2021, well, first it was 2020, pandemic happened. This is where all of us got our start. I feel like a lot of us started these pods. In 2020, my daughter was going to school with me. So I was working in the middle school, and my youngest daughter was in the nursery school downstairs in the same building. But the protocol I didn't agree with, the COVID protocol, the masks and the plexiglass and removing all the toys from the room. And I said, I'm a teacher, and there's no reason why I can't create something for her that would be so much better than this. So I was living in an apartment in New York. I was on the first floor, and we had a fairly large living room by New York standards. And I moved my couch to the middle of the living room. And behind the couch, I set up a little learning area. So we had a little rug and the calendar and a whiteboard. And I got in some materials, and I had 5 children. Started with family, and then other people, they started to spread the word. And I was able to use curriculum specific to each child. And I was able to learn the children without an assistant principal coming into the room and checking and seeing that I was doing things their way. I was able to just spend time with them. I was able to see them when they came in and assess and say, is this a good time for them? What's the best time to start with them? Do they need a minute to relax in the morning? Do they need some transition time? Can I give that to them? Is it best if we go outside right now? And that freedom, once I tasted it, there was no going back. There was never a chance that I was going to go back. And the kids made huge strides, and the families were so happy. And I was going to open in a brick and mortar location the following year in New York. But 2021, my daughters both got very sick. So my oldest daughter had a brain tumor. It's really a tumor of the veins. It was benign, but she needed surgery. And then a month later, my youngest was diagnosed with epilepsy. So we lived in the hospital, and I couldn't send them back if I wanted to. And I also couldn't open the school. So it was a full homeschool year for us. And then my husband got a promotion at his job, brought us to New Jersey. It was a huge year of transition. But once everything settled down and the girls' health was under control and we were in New Jersey, I found out about KaiPod. And and when I found out about Kai Pods, I was like, oh, this all happened for a reason. Like all this love and joy that I felt in my pod, I learned what I wanted to do. And then I came here to find the people who could help me do it. So I joined, and here we are.
Course, we've had KaiPod founder Amr Kumar on the podcast a couple of times to talk about his incredible program. He, like you, sort of had this vision during the pandemic for a pod that would bring together small groups of students, mixed age students in a social environment with experienced educators to sort of facilitate curriculum and have that curriculum chosen by parents so that parents have ultimate curriculum freedom and flexibility. And it ended up really taking off. So he has KaiPod locations across the country, but then also decided to create this KaiPod Catalyst program as an accelerator program for prospective founders like you and so many others. I think they're on to their, I don't know, there's several cohorts in at the moment of KaiPod Catalyst founders. So tell us, when was that you discovered the KaiPod Catalyst program, and what was that like to go through that program?
So I went back to school for my master's. So I was at Columbia University. So I needed somewhere for my daughter to be, my youngest. My oldest was back in high school. She was sick of me. She wanted to go to high school. I let her do it. But the youngest, I was homeschooling her, and I was doing the master's program. And I didn't want to send her to a public school, regular school. I wanted something where I still could control her curriculum because I knew her so deeply. And I knew what she needed and what she wanted and what kind of learner she was. I didn't want her to have to take standardized testing. I didn't want her to be forced to sit for extended periods of time. Um, I wanted her to play in nature. So I was looking for something like that. And then I stumbled across KaiPod, and has so many locations. They have um, an area on their website where you can type in your zip code and it'll tell you all of their schools and the schools that they help, like the one that I'm going to open. And when I was looking, I saw that they had the Catalyst program, and I read it and I was like, what what is this? This is perfect. This was made for me. And I remember I showed it to my husband and he was equally as surprised, because when I told him my dream of starting a school, he and I think everyone else was thought that I was crazy. They were like, what? That doesn't exist. What do you mean? Like, we can't wrap our heads around it. It's not traditional. It's not homeschool. It's something else, something other. And it was hard to explain, but then understanding that this world existed and that this dream wasn't just mine, that so many people had already been doing it, it was just so, I felt like I belonged somewhere, I felt understood.
So you applied and were accepted into the Kai Pi Catalyst program for fall of 2023, the fall cohort, and went through sort of a multi-week cohort process where you build really close connections, is my understanding, with other prospective founders who are all kind of in that same place. And then, you have this guidance from Amr and other industry experts and folks who can help you kind of on the entrepreneurial journey. What did you find most valuable about that Catalyst experience?
The sounding boards, really the sounding boards, because I tend to ruminate and I get in my head and I get nervous. And this is all so new. And I'm so happy to be talking to you now, because I was just saying to my husband last night, like, this experience is so thrilling and scary and exciting all at the same time. And I know I'll never experience it again. There will never be another first time that I'm doing this. Um, so there's so many times where things are coming up, things are starting. There's a million things happening at once when you're starting a school. And I will have way too many thoughts in my brain at the same time. Like, I need to talk to these people about location, and I'm creating the student handbook, and I'm marketing, and I'm doing my books, and I'm all these things at the same time. And we're paired with another founder who is our checkpoint person. We also have a group leader who works at KaiPod. So mine is Ryan. And we have small groups. There is a faith-based group. There is a PBL group. So, and then there are channels on Slack that we can reach out to if what we want is advice with marketing or enrollment or anything like that. But so many times I've called Amr, I've called Ryan, and I'm like, I'm having an A&M moment, we call it, Amanda's neurotic moment. And and I'm just like, it's so crazy. It's exciting and it's fun, but I don't know what to do first. And they'll talk me down and they'll say, okay, it's fine. These are all good things. And they'll walk me through and give me some direction, which is really great.
How did your vision or your business plan change from when you started with the Kai Pi Catalyst program to when you ended that cohort program? And I know that support and entrepreneur startup guidance continues, will continue through your launch and thereafter. But I'm just curious kind of what you went in with thinking, how your business would run, how your model would work, to then when you left that Catalyst program several weeks later, what changed?
The biggest thing was the age group that I wanted to serve.
Really?
Yeah, so initially, because I had done preschool as a pod in my home, I thought, okay, I'll start with preschool and then I'll grow it. Um, Year by year, I'll grow it. I'll grow, first grade 1 year and then add a second grade the next year. But then we sat down and discussed really what we wanted in our hearts. Like, if I could do anything that I wanted to do, and there was no limit and I could just create it, what would it be? And I thought middle school has my heart. Of all the grades that I taught, sorry, that's my dog, Axel. Of all the grades that I've taught, middle school has been the best. I love them. And I think there's such a need for a middle school because I found when I went to look that there are lots of micro schools for younger students and not so many for middle schoolers. Um, and and I loved being in the middle school. So I said, okay, if I'm going to create a school, I knew that it was going to be faith-based, because that's just how I live my life. And I need to be authentic, and I wouldn't be myself if I didn't bring my faith into it. Um, but also I wanted to make sure that I was doing exactly what I really was passionate about. And so I sat down and thought, if I could create the ideal middle school, what would that look like? And there's an autonomy that middle schoolers need and that they can handle, that's different than the younger grades. There is a creativity and an understanding of things that's different than it is in the younger grades, but they're also still children. And I feel like that gets lost in translation sometimes because they have that executive functioning and they're so, they want that freedom and they can be so independent that we forget sometimes that they're still kids, and they deserve to be read to and they deserve to be heard and they deserve playtime and lots of it. And I remembered when my oldest was in middle school and I was looking for the perfect school for her. And I was so nervous about putting her into school because they're so impressionable at that age. And so yeah, I sat with the idea and I formed it and I thought about every aspect and how I could serve all of the children and still put their families at the center of it because I believe that they need to know that they're loved and that they belong in order to learn anything. Um, so yeah, that was probably the biggest thing that changed was that I thought that I had to start at the beginning and I realized, no, I don't.
Oh, that's so great. I love that. And you're right. It's all about kind of crafting a business, a school around what you're passionate about. And great for you to be able to discover that that passion was middle school ages and also, of course, having that faith-based element that's so important to you. So, over the past few months, as you get ready for your launch, the back to school time 2024, what have been some of the sort of unexpected challenges or some of the kind of sort of startup snafus that you've encountered that you could share with us and maybe help others in that position?
Did I put him away?
Oh, it's fine. You're fine.
Okay. So I am a big English person. I've always been very good at ELA. I love reading. I love writing, and that's just the way that my brain works. If you talk to me about numbers, it doesn't work. My brain doesn't turn on in that area. So when I went back to school for the master's, we had to take a math class, and I hadn't taken math in, I don't know, 20 years. And I would cry tears to the professor. I would go to the professor and be like, I don't know, just what's a workaround here? Because I can't, but I wound up getting an A-. He helped me through. But when it came to the finances, I was like, oh, there's so much here. There's so much to consider. Um, but Ummer, being amazing, had an Excel spreadsheet that was already filled in with all the things that we needed, like staff and insurance and percentages of increase and all of these things. And I just needed to punch in what I knew: tuition, the amount of students, how many staff members I was going to have, and it just auto populated and helped me, which has been game changing
Hmm.
because as things have changed, I've been able to just go back to that sheet and it's there and I can figure it out. Um, there's that. I also had to hire a math teacher for that reason. so, so I did. Yeah, I would say those things. And then marketing. Marketing was something that I needed to really learn how to do. Um, I think it's funny when you first start as a classroom teacher, everybody has this idea that they're going to go in there and just change the world and it's going to be amazing. And then then comes bureaucracy and, you know, admin and all this other stuff that gets in your way and doesn't allow you to really flourish. When you think, okay, I'm going to step outside of that and create my own thing, you're thinking, I get to just, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be amazing. And then it's like marketing, bookkeeping. So, but this is so much more fun because it's mine and I get to learn. I failed with marketing so many times. And then I would go back to the drawing board and it was like a puzzle that I needed to figure out. How do I reach my families? How do I let them know that I'm here? And that has gotten much better.
What
So
are some
yeah,
of your marketing strategies?
I read the book in true form. I read the book, the storyboard marketing or something like that from Donald, what's his name? It's a marketing strategy that um, it treats your campaigns like storyboards, and it gives you a plot line, and it gives you, you know, the guide and the protagonist and the antagonist, and there is a format online, and you can punch in your characters and follow this plot line, and it shows you how to communicate with your target market using story.
Hmm,
And that made sense to me. So when I found that, I was like, oh, this is amazing.
perfect for
And
you as a bibliophile. Yeah.
so initially I started, I think his name is Donald Miller. I butchered that, but initially I was like, oh, I'm gonna make video. And I did start making video, and I do like making video. But once I read that book and I started working on that his online platform, I was like, I can just be myself and I can blog again and I can write because that's who I am. And so I started to do that. I started blogging and explaining my heart to parents and explaining what I wanted to provide, and they understood. And yeah, so
So
marketing.
what is your enrollment like now? What are you expecting to open with? And I guess where are you opening?
So where there was that was another thing, another snafu, the location. I found when I imagined having my own school back in 2020, I started to imagine having my own school, and I imagined opening in a home because I was operating out of my home, and we had the kitchen and we ate together as a like family style, and the kids cooked together and baked together, and we had a backyard that they could go to, and they could cozy up on the couch with a book, um and it was great. So I wanted to be in a home. And when I moved out here to New Jersey and I started to look, I found a home, and this home was zoned properly. It had been a daycare for 50 years, and the owner passed away in 2022, and the home was picked up by an investor, and it wasn't sold. It was on the market forever because I think it was on the market as a residential property, but it didn't have any showers or anything. It was a preschool. So I went and I saw it and I loved it. And the realtors were all talking to each other, and I was just talking to Jesus. I was there like, I feel it. This is it. Whatever the obstacle is, please just, let's just make this happen. And I've been negotiating for that property since January. And we just settled on terms yesterday.
Congratulations.
So they're sending the lease over today, and that should be all finalized hopefully by next week. It's in Old Bridge, New Jersey. It is beautiful. It's on almost an acre, 0.78 of an acre. And it has a main house, and it has many bathrooms. It has a dining room and a kitchen, exactly like I wanted. The yard is huge. And it's this big fenced-in yard with trees, and it's gorgeous. And it has a separate two-car garage that was converted into like a meeting kind of conference space for families, has a shed that was converted into an office. It's just so much space and so much that we can work with. So I'm in love with it, and that's where we're going to be. In terms of enrollment, I didn't want any more than 10 students per class. So but I have flexible options. So some moms have spoken to me and said, I have 4 children, 2 of them are middle school age. I have to work with the younger ones on their work, and the older ones still need help, but they can basically do what they need to do on their own. I just need them to be somewhere else for the morning block so that I can work with the toddlers. And then I'll pick them up to take them to do all their extracurriculars. So I have an option for that. So they can come just in the morning for the academic blocks, or they can come just in the afternoon for the enrichment blocks, or they can come 2 days a week or 3 days a week. I partnered with a local farm. So on Thursdays, our kids are going to spend the whole day at the farm. So some families are doing one academic day and one just Farm Thursday. Um, so far, so I opened enrollment on April 15th, and we have six students so far. And then I came across a teacher who reached out to me, and she has daughters who she would like to enroll, but she also has always wanted to have a micro school, and certified teacher turned homeschool mom, but she works with the younger grades, and that's what she loves. And we met a few times, and she is going to be opening a lower school classroom. So yeah,
Wow. In the same location?
same location. So
Now, is she going to be kind of under Lucas Literacy Lab or is she going to be separate?
yes. So she said that she always wanted to have her own micro school, but when she saw the workload, she said,
Yeah.
I'd rather work for one. And she's amazing, and I love her very much. And we had such great times together so far, and we're totally aligned. And yeah, so she's going to be opening the younger grade classroom. So that'll be
Great.
8. And then mine is 10 to 13, but I do have one 9-year-old. And then the children that are, on the cusp, 8 and 9-year-olds, they'll have some flexibility between the classrooms if they need it.
So, I mean, I often think entrepreneurs are superheroes. You have superpowers because you take on personal and financial risk that really, I think, separates entrepreneurs from everyone else. You're the one saying, I'm going to give this a try. This is my passion. This is what I'm excited about. It may not work, but I'm going to give it a go. How has that kind of startup or entrepreneur mindset been for you?
That's been the leading cause of the A&M moments. It's so scary. So obviously I have to give lots and lots of credit to my husband. If he didn't support what I'm doing, this would not happen. But we did have to use quite a lot of our savings to
Hmm.
get started. And then I did apply for some grants. I don't know if I got them yet. We'll find out. Um, but yeah, tapping into the thing is, you can't do this unless you're absolutely 100% passionate and sold, and you know that this is what you're going to do. And I will not do anything else with my life. Like, I know that I've tried, I've done the journalism thing, I've written a children's book, I've worked in traditional school settings, and nothing lights me up like this does. And I just feel totally dedicated to what I'm doing now. So yes, it's scary, but it just makes perfect sense to me, because I know that there are going to be things that come up, right? Not everything is going to be perfect. There will be hurdles, but I won't stop. Do you know what I mean? As I know that as long as I'm never going to take my foot off the pedal, and I'm always going to take the next step, um, it's okay. It's going to be fine. It's going to work.
I love that attitude. So, Amanda, your students will be technically homeschoolers, is that right? Or are you opening as a private school?
So we're opening as a hybrid homeschool learning center.
Hmm.
So that we do have one family right now that is transitioning from the public schools. And we also have like an in-house curriculum that parents can opt into if they don't have their own. But the majority of our families are homeschooling families. And they just need, some support. They want their children to have the same friends every day, or they want to take advantage of having an experienced teacher be there as, support for them. So yeah, that's the majority of our families.
Yeah, and in New Jersey, homeschooling is relatively easy compared to other states. So I can see why that would be an appealing model for you to kind of tap into and certainly attractive for the families there. So, what is your hope for the first year of running the Lucas Literacy Lab? If we were to talk at the end of the academic year next year, which I hope we will, what do you hope your reflections would be for that startup year?
I want, I want, okay, there's a few things. One is that I want my students and their parents, I want their families to feel like they have someone. I don't want them to feel like they have to struggle or do it alone. I want them to feel like they have a place that is there for them, a village hub of sorts, a place that is for them, for families by families. So I know when I was homeschooling, I missed having a grade team. When you're a teacher in the classroom, you have a grade team, you have other teachers, you have admin who you can speak to, you have the sounding board. And when you're homeschooling, at least when I was, I didn't have that. And it makes a big difference to gain perspective and to get other people's ideas and to find other ways in. So I want to have our families feel that way. The parents feel like, they have someone on their side. And I want the kids to know that they are loved first, that they're loved, they're accepted, that they have space to grow and to make mistakes and to be themselves. That is a huge thing for me. And the other thing is the community. I will be successful if my children know that they belong everywhere that they go, that they have the right to ask questions, that people are more good than they are not, and that they're supported. And so if I can have community leaders and industry leaders come in and, you know, show the children that they have an example to follow and they have places to turn always, that would mean success for me.
And what about financial sustainability? Do you have a pathway to having a salary and having the business be financially secure?
Yes, thanks to Umar, I do. So many times I've gone to Umar and said, I want to do this and this and he's like, no, 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 you can't. You have to hold off. You have to wait. Let's rethink this next year. But for year one, we're gonna keep it simple. This is what we're gonna do. So yeah, according to projections, my first year I should be in the positive,
Great.
which is good. And I should be able to take a very tiny salary, but I'll be in the positive. I do teach online also. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to let that go or if I can, or if I'll have to keep it, who knows. Um, but according to the projections that I've done with the team, it seems like it'll be great.
Amazing. So, how is the best way for my listeners and viewers to stay in touch with you and follow your launch? I know you have a fabulous Instagram page, a great website. What are the best ways for folks to connect with you?
So it's Lucas Literacy Lab everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, the website is lucasliteracylab.com. My email is amanda@lucasliteracylab.com. Yeah, that's it.
Well, I wish you all the best, Amanda, with your launch. I'm so excited to check in with you in a few months and find out how things are going and to follow your progress. And thank you so much for being on the Liberated podcast.
Thank you, Carrie.